Can we talk, just before we get into the next bit about casting, can we see a clip of Olivia as your stepmom?
Look, I know it's not really my place, but are you okay? Everyone's been really worried.
Poor fucker.
Yes, she's actually an expression of how women are subtle warriors, strong at heart. You know, we don't have to use muscular force to get what we want. We just use our...
Tits.
innate femininity.
Tits don't get you anywhere these days. Trust me.
It's very valuable, actually.
How much?
Thousands.
Can I have it?
No.
What's that?
Oh, my self-portrait.
So obviously Olivia, she's like comedy royalty, getting her involved, so just how did that come about and what was the...
Just friendship guilt, mainly at the beginning. I'd done a play with her and we'd become really good friends, and she had seen the play when we brought it back from Edinburgh to London, and she loved it, and she just said, obviously you remember when Olivia Colman said something like this to you, but she said, if you ever want me to do anything, I'll do it. And I was just like, sign that. And then, so when it came round, actually the godmother part wasn't in the pilot at that point.
I remember you emailed me and you said, I think Olivia would be up for helping us in the read-through.
And I had this...
but I don't know I'm not sure what she could read or just something very casual like that, and I was like, oh my God. So then I forwarded it to Jack and Harry and said, what are we doing? There needs to be a character in here or something. And then I think you, probably about half an hour later rang me going, I think I've got something.
Yeah,
it's one line in the play, wasn't it?
Yeah, the godmother's mentioned one line, but only as being upstairs and trying to be quiet at the top of the stairs. That was like the only line about her. But, so I didn't really, but all I did know is that Olivia, she'd been playing such lovely, warm characters for so long. I just thought, how can we utilise that and then also write a part that can't resist, basically, and that was the trick, really. Just said she's just the most adorable person in the world, but inside she's steel and is horrible and awful. And Collie was like, lovely, let's do it. And so yeah, I think then she did the read through and the pilot
And Shan, so your sister, you've always said that if you were ever going to have a sister, she would be the one.
Yeah, we were at drama school together, and we always wanted to play sisters, so it was great getting to do it. And we just have quite a sisterly energy, I think, anyway. And she, it's astonishing to me that she's done loads and loads of theatre, but she hasn't done that huge amount of TV. So it was so exciting knowing that she was landing in the show as well. And everyone was just like, who's that girl? It was great. She's amazing.
So is that thing just a little bit of sort of takeaway of like it had been a play successful, that read through, loads of kind of your acolytes and people you'd worked with had come to it, so it was fully formed before it ever got to telly. So I don't know, when Lee Max does a Not Going Out, he'll do it 3 times in a theatre pub, so he knows every joke, where it's going to land, where it's going to hit. It's just that thing of getting things really match fit and formed before you go near telly is one little truism from today.
Yeah, like knowing that the jokes that were taken from the play had been, I mean, it sounds like an obvious thing to say, but the confidence in playing that was like second to none, knowing that I'd done this run 2 or 3 times, those jokes work, people laugh. If I do it in the same way down the camera, it will work. And then you start going into the material, the new material, and that obviously was a bit more intimidating.
Because you'd only just written the play when we went up to Edinburgh, and so we were rehearsing it with an audience, weren't we? We were rehearsing it every day in our tiny flat. Yeah, but the audience was there giving us feedback constantly, and so we were really nurturing it with direct relationship with an audience,
And that's really how we honed the tone so much. It's not like I just went into a little room and little birds flew around and I just wrote this play, whatever, you know.
It was road tested quite.
Yeah, and I just think with comedy and sitcoms as well, I think to go at it cold, just based on your own instinct, it's so hard as well, because everyone's so busy on set anyway, you don't even get anything from them, so all the crew, everything, and I'm like, and everyone's just like switching switches and stuff. You have to have confidence that having the echo of that laugh was helpful at times.
Now we're going to go on to the awkward section. I've got the, right, this is going to be, I'm going to fuck this up royally. in descriptions, any female comedy always gets described as having a feminist agenda. You're a bit, you don't like to describe it as a feminist type show, do you?
No, I do. Oh my
Yeah?
God, of course. Yeah. This is it's a little trap, this one, I found, because I do completely. I'm so proud of the fact that people are calling it a feminist show. I just was getting slightly grumbly about the fact that, first of all, any shows written by women suddenly became categorized as a feminist show as a type of show. And usually when you unpack that, it means a show written about a woman by a woman.
Yeah.
And really, I think a feminist show is one that just, deepens, shows deep and complex female characters. And so that was really important to me with Fleabag, and I think politically and personally that it is a feminist show.
It deals with feminism. I mean, the hands up bit with the feminist lecture, when the lecturer asks if the women in the audience would give up 5 years of their life for the so-called perfect body, which was a question which came up years ago, and we discussed, and both of us privately admitted to each other that we sort of would,
Of course.
I mean, obviously there's a whole, is it at the end of your life or like straight away or whatever, but we would do a lot to just get the perfect body, and we felt guilty about that. And so what we were sort of like talking about when you wrote that was the question of, is there a sort of feminism now that can speak to young women in the place in the world that they live in, in the media being what it is, and the fact of how we feel about ourselves being what it is. Can we assuage ourselves of some guilt for being a woman in this world and also being a feminist? I think it's being dealt with much better now, and people are talking about these kinds of questions a lot more now. But at the time, we felt like there was no sort of leading voice in feminism to talk about how we navigate that. And and then the point when you say to your dad, I can't even call myself a feminist, hopefully those two things connect together, and the audience can take from that it is deeply trying to talk about feminism, but talking about a real woman in this world and how she might feel.
She knows that she is one, but she feels like she's getting it wrong somehow.
Yeah. And
I think it's unhelpful when the label is used to pigeonhole. So when you're like, it's a feminist comedy, or this is a piece of feminist television, you're sort of, it feels like you're just like, well, it's not for me because I'm not really sort of into that. It just feels like a convenient way of sort of tidying something.
It's like a word that somehow suddenly you feel like you're being chased with, and it's when it's something that is meant to empower and meant to articulate. And so, I just feel like the more we try and talk about that, the better.
And then one of the elements that gets blurred into that is people going, it's one of the filthiest shows that's been on telly, it's really sexualised, and I don't know, there's a massive double standards there between what male comedy can cover and what female comedy traditionally can cover, and how do you feel about that?
Well, the funniest thing is that there's no explicit nudity or anything like that on the show, and people say to me, like, it's so rude. I had an interview once and someone was like, what's it like being naked on, writing yourself a naked part when you're naked all the time? And I was like, what? And I was like, do you think it's because I just look straight down the barrel and say, like, arsehole? And that makes everyone feel like they're naked, I'm naked. Like, everyone's just like she said. I think it was the candor of the language that made it seem like that. And I think, because people were saying it was so shockingly filthy and stuff, and to be completely honest, I was like, is it?
It was definitely, you definitely wanted to talk at the time about the impact of porn and a woman who is self-sexualised.
She sexualises everything.
Yeah, because she felt like her value was in her sexual appeal to men, and that she, her body was sort of all she had, really, to, that was worth anything in this world. And the sort of onslaught of images, of sexualised images and porn was something that we really talked about in the play originally. And the fact that we thought maybe in the backstory that she'd been the one as a 10-year-old, 11-year-old that knew how to get hold of or look up porn or something like that, and that had grown with her, that she sort of had this identity which was connected to it, and she felt like she couldn't escape it, but these horrible images are constantly seeping into her consciousness. And so she's sort of, sex has become something that she as a transaction for her.
And it had to mean something, like the fact that she's showing the audience her sex life and her opinions about it, and the fact that she's not really enjoying it, or she is enjoying it, or as long as it meant something and didn't feel gratuitous, then yeah, I think it has its value in that story. But yeah, I mean, it was amazing how much that was picked up on compared to the amount of like wanking and shagging and so many male-driven sitcoms, and it's like, oh, I think this is about like a dystopian future. You're like, you just wanked for half an hour, and I have one little wank and all this feminist stuff, and
Filthy. And then part of that plays into the broader thing about comedy's always traditionally been quite a blokey thing. It's a lot of it's written by blokes. Even today, you'll get scripts and it'll say "pretty girl next door" type stuff, and it's you have these very cliched representations for female characters. That must be a really frustrating thing for you, and in writing this, you're addressing that, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, it is frustrating when you see character names when it's like Jeremy, and he's like, he's a physicist, he's interested, and he has a complicated relationship with this person who's erudite, and this is great at skateboarding, whatever, and then it's like, Paula,
Kirby.
fit. Bubbly. And you're like, okay, how do I work with that? And that happens a lot. It does happen. I think less now, actually, but I think people become more aware of it, but I was so aware of that when I was reading scripts, and you just already go in feeling angry, or it's not fit. So I could see that or that. And then you're like,
Dumpy.
And so I feel like that had been a pattern. That I think also it's not necessarily that everyone just sees the world in that way. I think also people see comedy in that way. Like it becomes an archetype, and that's what feels right. So someone will write something and go, feels like there should be a hot girl that the guy's chasing, and let's not worry about what she's feeling about it, because it doesn't feel right. And so I actually have all those scripts to thank for getting me to a place where I actually just went, oh, what if it was from the female perspective? And what if the guy was called Arsehole Guy and Rodent Mouth, and there was, or Tube Rodent. It was really purposeful that was the case, that she saw the world, not as a prod to comedy, but that she sees the world in that way, that she objectifies people very quickly, and that she sees them as one thing or the other, and usually just from the way they look. And describes people the way they look very quickly, came out of that same rage.